right, we're on Negaim Perik Aleph Mishnah Gimel, third Mishnah, the first chapter of Masechet Negaim. And as I've said in the previous Mishnah, in order to understand these things, we're going to have to understand how the process of Tzaraat works. So we're going to have to understand three words that are in a Mishnah, and see them in the Psukim. Ptur means you're not, a person doesn't have Tzaraat. He has a thing, he shows it to the Kohen looks at it, goes, oh, you're okay. Lahachlit means muchlat, definite. You're dead. He looks at it, he goes, you're Tzaraat, get out. Lula hasgir, hesger is being put away. Hesger means putting in quarantine. And there are certain situations where a person has to be put in quarantine. Let's look at the psukim. We're not gonna read. I can't read all of this. This is Vayikra Perek Yud Gimel, but we have to see at least the process of what happens in order to understand this Mishnah. Says the Mishnah. Says the Torah. Excuse me. A person has this blemish, whatever, and so one way is that the Kohen looks at him and say, "Arba nega apach lavan." The hair in the nega turned white. Okay, and the color is deeper. I don't know exactly what that means. Nega tzaratu, you're bad. Timeoto. If you've got a white blemish and the hair and it turned white, that was black turned white, you're bad. But if you have the baheret levana, if you've got that white blemish, but the hair is not white, amok ein maria mina or, and the depth is not. I have no idea what this means. If you know, send me a WhatsApp. Okay, the depth of the color is not deeper than the skin. Not sure what that means. But the hair did not turn white. Then that's if he's gear. Remember we said hesger, you put in quarantine. You go into quarantine 7 days. After the first 7 days, the Kohen comes back and takes a look at you, and lo pasa nega, the nega did not spread. You have another second 7 days of quarantine. So either you can be tameh either time. If the hair turned white, tameh. If not, quarantine. Another time, another quarantine. And the Kohen looks, if the hair turned white then also. Okay. Another possibility is, kehaha nega, velo pasa nega, if after 2 weeks nothing changed, then you're tahor. But after that, okay, after the quarantine, in pasoti say, if it spreads, amispachat, okay, after the Kohen, after the 2 weeks are over, after he says you're tahor, if it spread, you go back to the Kohen and he sees it spread, you're bad, that's a problem. One other way, in addition to the hair in the nega, for you to become tameh is if you have michiat basar chai baseit. If you have an area of live flesh, of healthy flesh, inside the white flesh, so that's the same as the white hair, se'ar nega. Okay, so what ways of getting to be mitzorah? You have a nega, it has white hair, or after 2 weeks it spreads, or you have an area of live flesh in there. Those are the basics, and the three things are ptur, hesger, and muchlat, tameh, and huchlat. Those are the 3 words that we have to know in order to understand our Mishnah. So remember, let's go back to our file. Remember, we learned that there were four colors of Tzaraat. All these white 4 colors that were Baheret and Se'et and their Toldot. We also learned that each one they have Toldot and they sort of mix. It's a machloket whether they all mix together. We learned before that according to most opinions, the Bartenura says they don't all mix together, the Toldot don't mix together. The Rambam says they do, but that's not important for us right now. What we need to know about these 4 colors, Sheleg, Tzemer, Lavan, Sida, Ichal, and Kun Beitzan. Remember, I just used the different shades of blue just to illustrate. They're all shades of white. And the others I didn't show you is because we would never see it. It's white, whitey white, more white and whitest white, or whatever. Nonetheless, these 4 shades are critical in order to understand our Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Arba mar'ot ha'elu. These 4 colors, mitztarfim ze im ze, they can be combined one with the other, liftor, either to get a person out, to exempt a person, ulahachlit, to make him tameh, muchlat, definite, ulahaskir, or to quarantine. So I'm just going to explain each one. Lahaskir et ha'omed, meaning, if I have half and half of one color or the other, or the Bartenura says, even if we're going to see after quarantine, the nega didn't spread, but it went from snow white to plaster to egg white, or whatever. In all of those cases, it's not a new blemish, but rather it's the old blemish, the switching of the colors and the mixing of the colors, mitztarfim zeim zeh. They're always combined with one another. So, what is lahasgir? Lahasgir means to quarantine, et ha'omed b'sof shavua rishon. If the nega stands, i.e. hasn't changed at the end of the first week, let's go to the Bartenura, okay? it says, the person, he sees it, the Kohen sees it at the end of the 7 days. Nothing changed. So, meaning, even though it switched from snow white to plaster white, nonetheless, says the Mishnah, that's still okay. Lahaskir, it's the same blemish, and he has to go into quarantine at the end of the first week. Or, liftor et ha'omed b'sof shavua sheni. Remember, we said after 2 weeks, he went to quarantine 1 week. Nothing changed. He went to quarantine, now it changed. It got whiter. It's now whitey white, as opposed to snow white, as opposed to plaster white. Doesn't matter. That's still the same thing, and he's patur. Lahachlit. Hachlit means you're definitely tameh. Et shenolad lo michya o se'ar lavan. Remember, we said, what's the way for a person to become tameh? Either he has michya, a healthy area of healthy flesh inside the blemish. The blemish is the size of a grease, the size of a bean, and the healthy flesh is the size of an adasha, square size of a lentil, a barley, lentil. O se'ar lavan, or he had white hair, batchila, either at the beginning. B'sof shavua rishon, if those symbols appear either at the end of the first week, b'sof shavua sheni, or the end of the second week, or even la'achar p'tur. After the p'tur, you have 2 weeks, nothing changed. After the 2 weeks going, it's like, nothing changed, you're okay. And then you get white hair, or then you get the clear flesh in the nega, boom, you're machlit. Lachlit et shenodad lo pishyon b'sof shavua rishon. Another way that I didn't quote in the psukim is what's called pishyon, pasah nega, pisyon, spread. Pisyon is a word that appears many, many times in the psukim. Pisyon is if it spreads. So if you have spread after the first week, or b'sof shavua sheni, or after the second week, or even lachar p'tur, the Kohen looks at you and says, nothing changed, even though the colors changed. Nothing changed, and then it spreads. After that, that's muchlat. Then you become tameh. Or lachlit et haofech kulo lavan mitoch haptur. If you have a blemish and you turn all white, you become, if you are patur, you become tameh. And the other way around. If you are patur, liftor et haofech kulo lavan mitoch hechlet or mitoch hesger. If you are tameh and then you turn all white, then you become patur as well. Meaning, if you were asur and you turned all white, if you were, kulo lavan mitoch haptur, you're patur, and then you turned, you were patur because the nega didn't spread after 2 weeks, and then you turned all white, you become tameh. That's muchlat. Also, if you were turned all white, the Torah says, if you became a person turned all white, and then part of it becomes okay, you're out, you have a problem. But if liftor et ha'ofech kulo lavan mitoch hechlet, but if you had hechlet, you were tameh, or you were in quarantine, or mitoch hesger, and then you turned all white, you become patur. So in all of these cases, in every one of these cases, arba marot elu, these colors, if it's half a grease of this color, half of that, or one in this time and one at that time, mistarfim ze im ze liftor. They're combined, and says the Mishnah, elu marot negaim shekol negaim tluim behem. These are the marot of the negaim, the signs of nega, of afflictions, that all other negaim are based upon them. Meaning, these colors, these 4 colors, or their combinations thereof, or their red combinations thereof, every nega is based on these colors. All right, we didn't learn all the Bartunu. You can see there's a ton in this. This is a very interesting new kind of learning of Mishnah, but I'm trying to keep it as brief as humanly possible and explain it in a clear way. If you have questions, we can discuss it together. You can find me on WhatsApp by joining the WhatsApp group. Send me an email. I'd love to back and forth. If you have comments or suggestions, please send them to me. We'll dedicate our learning to Rabbi and my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Make it a great day.